Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun Samar Mahindran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump has said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi would probably be visiting the White House for a meeting with him in February. Now, Trump told reporters on board Monday aboard the Air Force One on his way back to Joint Base Andrews from Florida. He said, and I quote, "I had a long talk with him this morning. He's going to be coming to the White House over next month, probably February. We have a very good relationship with India." This is what Trump told reporters aboard the Air Force One. Now, the US president was responding to a question on the phone call he had with PM Modi earlier in the morning. Everything came up in the phone call, Trump told reporters when asked about the details of his call with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Former Indo-Canadian MP Ruby Dhalla has announced that she will participate in the leadership race of the ruling Liberal Party to succeed Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Now, Dhalla entered the race on the eve of the deadline for the candidates to declare themselves, the 23rd of January, though her campaign will still have to submit the $350,000 Canadian dollars fee to qualify. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order directing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to revise the Pentagon's policy on transgender troops, likely setting in motion a future ban on their military service. Now, the order does not impose an immediate ban, but directs the Pentagon to come up with a policy on their service in the armed forces based on military readiness. Trump had tried to impose a ban on transgender troops during his first term as well, but it was tangled up in the courts before years before being overturned by former President Joe Biden shortly after the latter took office. The back-and-forth pendulum swing between the Trump and Biden administrations has left in the balance the transgender men and women who have volunteered to serve their country. Listen in.
And next, to ensure that we have the most lethal fighting force in the world, we will get transgender ideology the hell out of our military. It's going to be gone. In addition, we will stop our service members from being indoctrinated with radical left ideologies such as critical race theory. We're going to stop it. It's already been stopped. It's already been halted, totally halted.
US President Donald Trump said on Monday that Chinese startup DeepSeek's technology should act as a spur for American companies, and said, in fact, it was good that companies in China have come up with a cheaper, faster method of artificial intelligence. Listen in.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that. They said, you have the most brilliant scientists in the world in Seattle and various places. But Silicon Valley, they said, there's nobody like those people. This is very unusual when you hear a DeepSeek, when you hear somebody come up with something. We always have the ideas. We're always first. So I would say that's a positive. That could be very much a positive development. So instead of spending billions and billions, you'll spend less and you'll come up with, hopefully, the same.
India and China have decided to resume the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Now, this decision was taken during Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's Beijing visit. Now, this is where he met Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Beijing. Now, Wang said India and China should seize the opportunity and meet each other halfway. Now, the countries should meet each other halfway and commit themselves to mutual understanding rather than mutual suspicion. This was the comment made by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Monday as he met Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri in Beijing. Now, Misri was in Beijing on a two-day visit between the 26th and the 27th of February for talks with Chinese officials to improve India-China relations in the second such high-profile visit from India to China in less than 1.5 months. More than 300,000 Palestinians streamed into Gaza's most heavily destroyed area under a fragile ceasefire after Israel opened the north for the first time since the early weeks of the 15-month war with Hamas. Israel, meanwhile, announced that the 8 of the hostages to be freed in the weeks ahead are dead. Massive crowds of Palestinians, some holding babies or pushing wheelchairs even, walked with their belongings along a seaside road in a dramatic reversal of the mass exodus from the north that many had, in fact, feared Israel would make permanent. 2 people were killed and 17 others wounded on Monday in the second day of deadly protests in southern Lebanon. This is according to the health officials. This as residents displaced by the 14-month war between Israel and Hezbollah attempted to return to villages where Israeli troops still remain. The shooting came a day after 24 people were killed and more than 130 were wounded when Israeli troops opened fire on protesters who in fact breached roadblocks set up along the Israel-Lebanon border. Meanwhile, Israel's president is calling on all nations and all people who quote-unquote consider themselves part of the civilized world, in fact, to use their influence to free the remaining hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Isaac Herzog made the appeal Monday at the UN's annual commemoration of the International Day in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. This year marking the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz concentration camp and the end of World War II. Listen in.
They blur the distinction between good and evil, creating a distorted symmetry between the victim and the murderous monster. I ask you, how is this possible? How is it possible that international institutions, which began as an anti-Nazi alliance, are allowing anti-Semitic genocidal doctrines to flourish uninterrupted in the wake of the largest massacre of Jews since World War II?
Footage has emerged from the city of Goma in eastern Democratic Congo showing armed men said to be M23 rebel soldiers walking through the streets on Monday. Now, the videos were filmed in a neighborhood close to the Goma airport. Residents of the city were fleeing on Monday after the Rwanda-backed rebels claimed to have captured the regional hub from the Congolese forces. This as fighting escalated despite calls from the UN Security Council for the insurgents to indeed withdraw. Dozens of Congolese army soldiers, meanwhile, fled into the Rwandan border town of Rubavu on Monday, where they surrendered their weapons and were processed by Rwandese border officials. And this follows an advance by the Rwanda-backed M23 rebels who claimed they had captured the eastern city of Goma early Monday. Gunshots rang out across Goma overnight before dozens of rebels in military uniforms marched into the city early Monday morning. The UN described a mass panic among Goma's 2 million residents, and Congo's government said the rebel advance was a quote-unquote declaration of war. At least 67 Indian nationals who were lured into illegal work in Lagos were rescued, and their exit formalities are underway to send them back to India, the Indian embassy in the Southeast Asian country said on Monday. Now, the citizens were rescued from cyber scam centers operating at the Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone, or the GTS-EZ, in Bokyo province of Lao PDR. Two people were fatally shot and a person believed to be the shooter died at a grocery store in Monday in northern Indiana. Now, 2 police officers were also injured in the shooting late Monday afternoon at Martin's supermarket in Elkhart. The Elkhart Police Department spokesperson, in fact, Jessica McBriar, said during a media briefing, she said 2 people were pronounced dead inside the store and that the 2 officers sustained gunfire and were in a stable condition at the hospital. Listen in.
2 individuals inside the store deceased, unfortunately pronounced deceased. 1 individual believed to be the suspect that was also pronounced deceased, and then 2 of our officers that were injured but are believed to be in stable condition at last information.
The flight carrying migrants deported from the United States arrived in Guatemala on Monday, carrying 63 adult Guatemalan nationals and 1 baby. Once President Donald Trump took office, he issued a series of executive orders to beef up border security and slash migration. He declared a national emergency at the US-Mexico border and even announced plans to send US troops and restrict refugees and asylum. Over the weekend, Trump threatened to levy massive tariffs and imposed visa restrictions on Colombia after the country's leftist president refused to allow a U.S. military plane returning undocumented migrants from the South American nation to land in the country. Now, Colombia ultimately agreed to receive the deportees.
Me dolía toda la mano aquí, me tenían bien aquí, me quitaron bien rojo. Los pies hasta los cuellos me tenían bien amarrados los pies.
Serbia striking university students on Monday launched a 24-hour blockade of a key traffic intersection in the capital Belgrade, stepping up pressure on the populist authorities over a deadly canopy collapse in November that killed 15 people. Serbian farmers on tractors and thousands of citizens joined the blockade that followed weeks of protests demanding accountability for the deadly accident in the northern city of Novi Sad that critics have blamed on rampant government corruption. In fact, a campaign of street demonstrations has posted the biggest challenge in years to the populist government's firm grip on power in Serbia.
Došli smo da podržimo studente, da im pružimo podršku, da istrajemo do kraja I da pobedimo ovaj odvratan režim. To je to.
A fire gutted a settlement in Johannesburg, destroying homes and possessions while leaving hundreds of residents homeless on Monday. Now, residents believe that the fire started when a paraffin stove exploded. Many of the homes are built using plastic materials, wood, and corrugated iron, with many shelters only a few inches away from each other. A local councillor for the area said as many as 1,500 shelters have been destroyed. Aided by locals, firefighters were able to bring the fire under control, allowing residents to collect what little of their personal belongings remains. And people rushed to buy their favorite foods and goods in Taipei's Nanmen market on the 28th of January. It's the eve of the coming Lunar New Year of the Snake. Taiwan's Nanmen market is one of the most popular traditional markets in the capital. In fact, businesses are also closed during the Lunar New Year holidays, urging people to purchase foods and goods for the coming first days of the year. Sausages and sweets are among the most popular because they can be kept for longer. The hand-painted New Year couplets are also crucial to people here. Now, this is because they are changed every year on the eve of the coming year. A full-scale replica of the secret annex where Anne Frank penned her famous diary opened in New York City on Monday as the world marked the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. The exhibit at the Center for Jewish History in Manhattan represents the first time the annex has been completely recreated outside of Amsterdam, where the space is a central part of the Anne Frank House Museum. But while the original annex has been intentionally left empty, the New York reconstruction shows the 5 rooms as they would have looked while the Frank family and others lived in hiding. The spaces are filled with furniture and possessions, including a reconstruction of the writing desk where Frank finally wrote her diary.
When you walk through the annex, you see a very detailed view of how it must have been to be in hiding. The rooms are exactly modeled as they were furnished. That the knowledge is there because Otto Frank, Anne's father, told afterwards, after coming back from Auschwitz, how it has been.
Britain's Prince William and Kate, Princess of Wales, met with Holocaust survivors to mark Holocaust Memorial Day and the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau, the former Nazi German concentration and extermination camp. The royal couple shook hands and had lengthy conversations with guests. Nazi German forces murdered some 1.1 million people at the concentration camp in southern Poland, which was under German occupation during World War II. It's time we slip into a short break. I'll see you on the other side. Indian designer Rahul Mishra showed a very personal and symbolic space-age collection at the ongoing Paris Fashion Week. Now, a month after the death of his father, the designer found himself looking to Hindu scriptures and an essay about humans' place in the cosmos for his spring collection. Inspired by an essay called Pale Blue Dot, the vision of the human future in space from astronomer Carl Sagan, Mishra considered memories of his family and the meaning of life in a vast universe. Sagan was heard speaking over the soundtrack of the Catwalk show, while models appeared to be beamed onto the catwalk as sparkling structural cape swept along the catwalk. Giambattista Valli presented his latest haute couture collection at the Paris Fashion Week Monday. A sea of stunning gowns streamed down the simple red runner runway, a simple white curtain behind the models as they showcased a large variety of high fashion designs. There was a dress in nearly every color and each one cut different than the last. There were white ball gowns with capes and full skirts, followed by a collection of delicate pink. Pops of bold red and black ball gowns completed the collection. Designer Maria Grazia Chiuri delved into the storied archives of Christian Dior for a latest haute couture collection Monday, exploring the transformations of time. The accomplished Spring 2025 show, one of Chiuri's best in seasons, in fact, drew from the crease silhouettes of Dior's iconic past designers such as YSL and infusing them with a distinct contemporary vision. The show was a commentary on how fashion serves as a lens for understanding time. Key inspirations included the trapeze line, originally conceived by Saint Laurent in 1958, and Christian Dior's Segale silhouette from the 1950s as well, both updated with modern fabrics. Well, that's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful day.